Let's begin our review of ethical theories. You'll be writing several persuasive papers in this class, and you'll be expected to use sound ethical theories to support your arguments. We'll cover a number of ethical theories, including 2 types of relativism, 2 types of utilitarianism, and at least 4 other theories. All of us have to ask ourselves questions about what is right in terms of how to act in a particular situation. Sometimes you might decide this based on your societal beliefs. You're using cultural relativism when you do this. If you believe that each person decides individually on the right way to act based on your individual beliefs, you're using subjective relativism. If you believe that the right way to act is determined by God and use that to make your decision, you're employing divine command theory. If you think about the consequences of your action and try to analyze the situation to maximize happiness, you're using utilitarianism. If you think about your duty and focus on goodwill toward others, you're likely using Kantianism. Of course, we often use a combination of these theories in our daily decisions. Your textbook, A Practical Companion to Ethics by Weston, suggests that there are 3 basic families of moral values: the ethics of happiness, the ethics of person, and the ethics of virtue. Compare and contrast the ethics of conduct and the ethics of character. When considering the ethics of character, you might pose a question like, what sort of people should we be? When using the ethics of conduct, the question might be framed, what type of actions should we perform? Here are some examples of employing the ethics of conduct, utilitarianism, or consequentialism. When Truman made the decision about using the atomic bomb during World War II, he likely used consequentialism and thought that it would result in the most beneficial consequences for the most people. In 2003, during the Iraq War, our government stated that it was critical to minimize the spread of weapons of mass destruction and thereby assuring the most happiness for the most people. On an individual level, ordinary people often weigh the consequences of lying, trying to determine the effect of that behavior. Let's look at a situation where a person borrows money and signs an agreement to repay the loan but actually never intends to do so. Applying Kant's categorical imperative to this situation, there's apparently a logical contradiction, because if breaking the promise of promises were to be a universal law, no person would ever agree to promise. Another ethical theory, called the social contract theory, can be useful in determining the right way to act. According to this theory, a person should analyze the situation and determine if that behavior would be an acceptable rule that rational people would agree to accept for their mutual benefit. Here's an illustration of Locke's social contract theory. It suggests that we, the people, often transfer power to executives and judges in return for security and/or protection. Basically, rational people often agree to give up certain rights if they believe it will benefit society overall. Let's look at another situation. Suppose Bill owns a chain of DVD rental stores and his employees collect information about rentals. Customer profiles are created and sold to direct marketing firms. Is this behavior ethical? If we use social contract theory to analyze the situation, we need to ask ourselves about the rights of Bill, the owner, the customers, and the direct marketing mail order companies. We need to ask about the ownership of the information about the rental transactions. Does the customer expect that their name and address will be kept confidential when they rent videos from these stores? If you think Bill and his customers have equal rights to the information, then Bill did nothing wrong. If, however, you think customers do have the right to expect confidentiality when renting videos, then Bill should have obtained their permission before selling the information to the direct marketing firms. I hope this lecture has clarified some of the ethical theories. Keep in mind that typically most people use a combination of these to make moral decisions. I'll leave you with a final question. What will you do when you cannot respect rights absolutely and still maximize the total beneficial consequence?